In 1892, Ogden Goelet spent approximately $4.5 million building a limestone castle overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, more than $130 million in today's money. 55 years later, students were taking exams in the same rooms where America's richest families once hosted dukes, millionaires, and the most powerful figures in Newport society. High above the Rhode Island coastline, on 11 acres of oceanfront land, Ochre Court still stands exactly where Richard Morris Hunt intended it to stand. Its limestone towers rise above the cliffs like the remains of a European kingdom misplaced on American soil. Visitors approaching the mansion today often assume they are looking at a French chateau or an English country estate. Few realize they are standing before one of the last surviving monuments to an age when America's richest families competed to build private palaces larger than many public buildings. The mansion contains approximately 50,000 square feet of space. When construction was completed in 1892, it was among the largest private residences in the entire United States. It overlooked Newport's famous cliff walk and commanded uninterrupted views of the open Atlantic. It was not merely a summer cottage, as Newport's elite politely called their mansions. It was a declaration of power, and for a brief moment in history, few families possessed more power than the Goelets. The Goelet fortune began long before Newport became fashionable. While many Gilded Age families accumulated wealth through railroads, steel, banking, or oil, the Goelets became rich through one of the simplest investments imaginable: land. Generations earlier, members of the family acquired substantial real estate holdings throughout Manhattan. As New York City expanded northward throughout the 19th century, property values exploded. Streets that had once been farmland became some of the most valuable commercial real estate in America. By the 1880s, the Goelet family was among the wealthiest landowners in New York City. Their fortune was estimated in the tens of millions of dollars at a time when a single million represented unimaginable wealth. Rent from office buildings, hotels, and commercial properties flowed steadily into family accounts year after year. Unlike industrial fortunes that rose and fell with markets, the Goelets possessed something far more durable. They owned the city beneath the city's growth. For Ogden Goelet, born in 1851, that wealth provided extraordinary opportunity, but it did not automatically provide status. Newport society operated according to its own unwritten rules. Acceptance among America's elite required more than money. It required visibility, influence, and presence. The grand houses rising along Bellevue Avenue were not simply homes. They were physical proof of social rank. The Vanderbilts had the breakers. The Astors had beechwood. The Berwins built the elms. Ogden Goelet intended to build something equally unforgettable, something that would announce his family's arrival to anyone who doubted it. To bring that vision to life, he turned to Richard Morris Hunt, the most celebrated architect in Gilded Age America. Hunt had trained at the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, making him one of the very few American architects with formal European training. He understood instinctively what families like the Goelets wanted, not merely a home, a statement. Hunt had already designed Marble House for William Kissam Vanderbilt, just down the road on Bellevue Avenue, completed in 1892 at a reported cost of $11 million. Ochre Court would be something different. Where Marble House declared Roman imperial power, Ochre Court would reach towards something older and more romantic: the Gothic chateau of the French Loire Valley. Hunt designed a structure of extraordinary ambition. The exterior was built entirely from Indiana limestone, hand-carved into elaborate Gothic details. Massive towers anchored each corner of the structure. Steep, pitched roofs rose dramatically against the Atlantic sky. Decorative stonework covered nearly every surface. A soaring multi-story entrance hall greeted every guest who passed through the front doors. Its ceiling vaulted like a medieval cathedral. A grand staircase swept upward beneath stained glass windows that cast colored light across marble floors. The great hall at the center of the mansion rose 3 full stories and opened directly toward unobstructed views of the ocean below. Every room communicated the same message: that the family who lived here existed on an entirely different plane from ordinary Americans. Construction took 3 years and employed hundreds of craftsmen, many brought specifically from Europe for the project. When Ochre Court finally opened in 1892, it immediately became one of the most admired and discussed residences on the entire eastern seaboard. If you had stood on Bellevue Avenue during the summer of 1895, you would have witnessed one of the greatest concentrations of private wealth the world had ever seen assembled in a single place. Newport in the 1890s was unlike anywhere else in America. Every summer, beginning in late June and running through early September, the nation's wealthiest families descended on the Rhode Island coastline. The social season was orchestrated with military precision. Balls, dinners, yacht races, and elaborate lawn parties filled the calendar from morning until well past midnight. For one brief afternoon in Newport, Ochre Court stood at the center of the world. But the world does not stay still, and for Ogden Goelet, it would stop far sooner than anyone expected. For all the wealth that built Ochre Court, Ogden would enjoy it for only 5 summers. When he died in 1897 at the age of 46, the mansion was still new. The limestone had barely weathered. The gardens were still maturing, the fountain still ran. The great hall still echoed with the memory of recent gatherings. The man who dreamed it, paid for it, commissioned it, and built it was gone before the world had finished admiring what he had created. By the time the Second World War ended, the world Ochre Court had been built for no longer existed. The generation that believed wealth could purchase permanence was gone, and the mansion stood increasingly disconnected from the society that had created it. By the 1930s and 1940s, many of Newport's great estates faced uncertain futures. Some were demolished because the land beneath them had become more valuable than the buildings themselves. Others were simply abandoned, left to deteriorate behind locked gates. The social architecture that had justified their existence had crumbled as completely as some of their physical structures. The Goelets never became poor, but prosperity alone could not preserve the world Ochre Court had been built to serve. The mansion had become something its creator never intended it to be, a relic. In 1947, the family sold Ochre Court to Salve Regina University. The sale marked the end of 55 years of private ownership. The castle, built as a monument to exclusivity, entered an entirely new chapter. Students moved into spaces once occupied by servants and socialites. Lecture halls replaced drawing rooms. Professors occupied offices where butlers had once stood waiting for instructions. Academic life replaced aristocratic display. Today, more than 130 years after its completion, Ochre Court remains one of the most recognizable structures in Newport. Its towers still overlook the Atlantic. Its stone walls still catch the same ocean light that illuminated them in 1892. Thousands of visitors pass through every year, many completely unaware of the ambitions, fortunes, rivalries, and heartbreaks that created it. As you walk through Ochre Court today, it is difficult to imagine that every stone around you was once part of a carefully constructed social statement. The vaulted ceilings that soar above the hallways were not built for students carrying textbooks. They were built to impress the most powerful people in America. Perhaps the most haunting thing about Ochre Court is not what has changed. It is what has remained. The Atlantic continues to crash against the cliffs below, exactly as it did when Ogden Goelet stood here imagining his future. The wind still moves across the lawns. The towers still cast their long shadows across the stone terraces each afternoon. The family that built this mansion is gone from Newport. The servants are gone. The guests who once filled these halls are gone. The social world that gave Ochre Court its meaning vanished generations ago.